Do you see any of the real Diana in Meghan? Did you?
No.
Really?
No. Sorry.
Imagine the studio atmosphere, usually buzzing with the frantic, caffeinated energy of live television, suddenly dropping to a near absolute zero. It is the kind of silence that feels heavy, the kind that pressed down on your chest. You tune in expecting the standard morning fare, the tired political sparring, the forced banter about the weather, the predictable rhythm of a broadcast designed to be background noise. But then, the script is shredded. Piers Morgan.
All the racism claims turned out to be bullshit. The mental health claims were bullshit. All of it was bullshit, designed to damage and attack the royal family, the monarchy, and all of it. And it made
A figure known for his volatility, but also for his sharp news instincts, leans forward. There is no shouting, no theatrical table flipping, and no dramatic music swelling in the background. Instead, there is a cold, surgical precision to his movement as he lifts a stack of glossy,
I don't want to be doing another bloody segment on Meghan Markle or Harry, right?
high-resolution photographs into the harsh glare of the studio lights. In that split second, the air leaves the room. The co-hosts stiffen, their smiles faltering into looks of genuine confusion and perhaps a touch of dread, unsure if they are witnessing a journalistic coup or a career-ending catastrophe unfolding in real time. This isn't just a segment. It is a demolition. For years, the world has been fed a very specific, meticulously crafted diet of images regarding Meghan Markle. We were sold the story of the humanitarian, the struggling actress who hustled for every audition, the woman who sipped green juice in her modest Toronto apartment while penning thoughtful blog posts about female empowerment and self-love. It was a narrative of innocence and grit, a modern-day fairy tale where a humble girl stumbles into the path of a prince. But the images Piers Morgan held in his hands that morning did not whisper of humility. They screamed of exclusivity. They did not show a woman on the periphery of Hollywood looking for a break. They depicted a woman firmly entrenched in the VIP section of a lifestyle most people can only dream of. The photographs were like shards of glass cutting through the soft focus lens of the Sussex brand. We saw glimmers of private jets, the dimly lit, velvet-roped interiors of exclusive clubs, and a social circle populated not by struggling artists, but by high rollers, influential power brokers, and men whose names rarely make the tabloids because they can afford to keep them out. The moment those images hit the broadcast signal, the victim princess storyline, arguably the boldest performance of her career, began to wobble dangerously. It was a system crash. The discrepancy was too glaring to ignore. You cannot simultaneously be the wide-eyed outsider baffled by the mechanisms of wealth and royalty while possessing a photographic history that places you at the epicenter of the global elite's playground long before a tiara was ever placed on your head. The racism claims, the mental health struggles, the narrative of being thrown to the wolves by a cold institution. Suddenly, all of it was being viewed through a new, skeptical lens. Was this the story of a woman crushed by a system, or the story of a woman who knew exactly how to dismantle one? The internet, naturally, reacted with the force of a nuclear detonation. Within seconds, the hashtags began to form, not orchestrated by bots, but born from a genuine, collective gasp of realization. What made this moment so potent wasn't just the content of the photos, but the context of a silence that followed. For a woman who has famously claimed she has nothing to hide, whose entire brand is built on speaking her truth, the existence of these deleted blogs, wiped timelines, and vanished friends suggests a tremendous amount of effort has gone into hiding quite a lot. The PR team behind the Sussexes, usually quick to issue cease and desists or sources close to the couple corrections for even the slightest slight, was rendered mute. The truth didn't leak out slowly. It detonated. Piers didn't need to frame this as a witch hunt. He simply held up the evidence and let the cognitive dissonance do the rest. The photos argued a case far more effectively than any monologue could. They suggested that the Megxit drama was messy, sure, but her pre-royal life was a labyrinth of calculated moves, power plays, and quiet cutoffs that she hoped would remain buried in the digital graveyard forever. But to understand the true weight of this leak, one must understand the man delivering it. The relationship between Piers Morgan and Meghan Markle is a Shakespearean tragedy of modern media. It didn't start with vitriol. It started with a drink at a Kensington pub. Piers has recounted the evening with a sense of bewildered betrayal that has never quite faded. They met, they laughed, they gossiped. He was charmed. He thought he had made a friend in the industry, or at least a friendly acquaintance. And then, the steel door slammed shut. The moment Meghan ascended to the next rung of the social ladder, symbolized by a dinner at Soho House with Prince Harry, Piers was ghosted. No explanation, no polite decline, just absolute radio silence. It was a cold, transactional move that revealed a personality trait Piers would later warn the world about. People are useful until they aren't. When he held those photos up, it wasn't just journalism. It was the return of the repressed. It was a message that said, "I remember who you were before the palace PR machine scrubbed the internet." The resentment that had simmered since that ghosting, fueled by the explosive Oprah interview and the subsequent loss of his job at Good Morning Britain, had crystallized into this singular moment of exposure. He felt played. He believed the public was being played. And in that studio, he decided to stop playing along. The leak was ammunition in a war he felt he had been drafted into against his will, a war between a curated fantasy and a gritty, inconvenient reality. However, the rabbit hole goes deeper than a scorned television host. The provenance of these images raises the most uncomfortable question of all: who sent them? The visuals were intimate. They weren't paparazzi shots taken from the bushes. They were taken from inside the inner sanctum. They imply a source within the trusted circle, someone who was there when the champagne was flowing and the cameras were off. This brings us to the shadow figure of the Sussex saga, Marcus Anderson. The global membership director of Soho House is perhaps the most critical, yet least scrutinized, character in this drama. While Meghan has framed him as a dear friend, insiders paint a picture of a strategic alliance that defies the standard definition of friendship. Marcus is the gatekeeper. To understand his role is to understand the machinery of social climbing in the 21st century. Soho House is not just a club, it is a vetting mechanism for the elite. It is a place where privacy is the currency and access is the product. For a mid-level actress to have the kind of access Meghan allegedly enjoyed, the ability to utilize clubs in Toronto, London, and Los Angeles as personal living rooms, suggests a level of patronage that is unusual, to say the least. Marcus was the connective tissue. He was the one who could open doors that were usually locked to cable TV actresses. He was the one who allegedly facilitated the introductions, the parties, and the lifestyle that far outstripped her reported income. The leaked photos seemed to bear the fingerprints of this world. They showed locations and gatherings that only a Soho House insider or someone practically living in Marcus's pocket would have documented. If the leak didn't come from him, it came from someone with identical access, someone who watched the humble girl narrative take over the world and decided it was time to show the outtakes. This betrayal, if that's what it is, suggests that the loyalty within Meghan's past circles might be fracturing. It hints that the people she left behind on her ascent are tired of being erased from the story, or perhaps they are just tired of the hypocrisy, and then, inevitably, the conversation turns to the water. The yachting rumors have circulated in the dark corners of the internet for years, dismissed by mainstream media as misogynistic trolling. But the leaked images provided oxygen to these embers. The photos didn't show a woman studying international relations or struggling to pay rent. They showed a woman comfortable on the decks of luxury vessels, surrounded by men of means, participating in the high-stakes networking that defines the Yacht Week circuit. The disconnect is jarring. How does a university student or a struggling actress fund a summer in the Mediterranean that costs tens of thousands of dollars? Who is paying for the flights, the accommodation, the wardrobe? The questions are not merely gossip, they are forensic. They ask for the math to make sense. When the math doesn't make sense, when the income doesn't match the output, people start looking for the missing variables. In this case, the missing variable is the network of wealthy benefactors and social fixers like Marcus Anderson who facilitate this lifestyle. The yacht girl label is loaded and often used unfairly, but the underlying question remains valid. Was Meghan Markle's social rise organic, or was it a sponsored ascent through channels that she now desperately wants to disavow? The silence from her camp regarding these specific timelines only amplifies the speculation. In the absence of a clarification, the public writes its own story, and right now, the story being written is one of a calculated ambition that utilized every available asset, including her presence in these exclusive maritime circles, to secure a position of power. Ironically, the person who did the most damage to Meghan's defense might be her husband.